So, to keep the things going the way the last couple of hot seaters were talking about, I want to talk about connecting through one subject that it's easy to connect through the source, and then downloading on another subject.
Why?
Because to get connected, let's just say I want.
So this is the way we describe this. So pile of sticks, pile of sticks, pile of sticks. And the subjects on the sticks are things like relationships and money and nature and art and vehicles and travel and endless subjects. So you've decided to play with this connection and receiving daydream idea. And so you meditate, or you wake up just feeling great and sit for a moment, and in a non-resistant state, a thought flows into your mind. And because you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, it's a thought that has no resistance within it. Now stay with us for a moment. This matters so much. Because your inner being knows everything about you. You may have heard us say, we say it often, your inner being knows where you are in relationship to where you want to be. Your inner being knows where you are vibrationally on every subject of importance to you. So when you get into the receptive mode, just what you ask for gets underway, and this is how it happens. You're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. The daydream starts flowing. You just let it flow. You don't try to direct it. It's active within you. And now that that is active, that end of every stick is available to you. You're not ready to think about it yet because you could just mess it up. In fact, you could have a pile of 1,000 sticks and maybe only one of them is pure positive energy for you. And that's the one your inner being will give you the daydream about. And every other stick is then improved while you are daydreaming about the one that has no resistance. That's what you were asking for, isn't it?
Yes, and can I say a story about this? This was a story before I was aware of Abraham's teaching. Yeah. So I had this set of consciousness experience at work for about 6 months, and I wished for this change, and at that time had like very little focus on my emotional, personal relationship. I knew I will find a life partner, but my focus was more in a contrast of work environment, which was a perfect distraction to actually find a life partner.
That's important, wasn't it? But why was it possible to find a life partner with all of that distraction going on?
Because the moment I had the release of resistance in my work environment, I just flew so high that I downloaded my life partner.
And then what happened to everything else?
Well, then I got both on the price of one.
Yeah, because everything else got better, didn't it?
Yes.
Everything else got better. But what gets tricky is if you decide that you're going to use your conscious mind to dig through the piles and find it, you're digging through the piles and you're finding a whole lot of things. And so can you feel that this is the most productive way to accomplish
Yes, so I felt a release of resistance. I was so happy. I didn't want to go home. I went to have a drink where my roommate at the time was working at, and I still didn't want to go home. And then I went to a bar, and I never really go to a bar. And I was like, oh, well, I may flirt with this guy over here just for a second.
So do you think that you were inspired to that action?
I was not inspired. I was guided out of
Guided is inspired on steroids, isn't it?
Yes. So I get in a line for a restroom, the place to meet your life partner, right? Where he and his best friend are talking in Spanish about me, thinking that I don't speak Spanish. Where I learned Spanish when I was 13 years old, watching obsessively Spanish soap operas, making my own dictionary so I can learn the words. Not that I cared about soap opera, I loved the language. Well,
so some questions back to you. Do you think your inner being knew that that was the path of least resistance?
Oh, that was like everything. And then not only that I didn't want to talk to him, his friend asked me for my phone number. And then after I gave him my phone number to his friend, I came out and started dancing with them. And then his friend says, oh, don't show off your moves too much. My friend is a professional dancer. I was like, is that right? Grabbed him for the hand. He's like, what are you doing? I said, we're gonna dance. And we were on the dance floor, realizing that he was in the United States 15 years prior, knows my whole network.
We are all enjoying
Yes.
this conversation. We have a small amount of clarification that we want to offer to all of you. And that is, whenever you are thinking or speaking or communicating with another or having your own thought experience, in other words, it doesn't matter. Most humans approach it from connecting from subject to subject to subject to subject. We want you to connect from vibration to vibration to vibration to vibration. Now, here's what we mean by this. Because this conversation is really entertaining, and you could get into a lot of detail of things that happened, or even things that you've lived in your life before, or things that you've lived since, and you could get vibrationally off point.
Understood.
But if your intent for the description that you offer is to stay on vibrational point, and what is the vibrational point that we were on? Source knew where my partner was. Source knew where I was vibrationally in relationship to it. Source knew that if Source had given me the phone number and the address, I wouldn't have gone. But since it was coming to me through an impulse, how could it have been more perfect than the way Source delivered it to you? That's the vibrational essence of it. You hear what we're getting at? As you're telling your stories, play with this tonight as you're together. As you're telling your stories to one another, just have an awareness. We're not asking you to limit your conversation or try to guide anyone else's. We're just asking you to be aware as you're telling your stories, whether your story is inspired from your intent to maintain your vibrational alignment, which you all have right now, or whether your story is inspired from some physical access to, let's say that somebody says something about unpacking their suitcase, and it makes you think about your suitcase that you didn't get yet, which makes somebody else talk about the airlines and how inefficient they are, which makes somebody else talk about and so your conversation seems like a fluid conversation that makes sense. But is anybody asking the question of whether inner being is involved? Is this an empowering conversation or a disempowering conversation? That's what we're getting at. Have a little bit of fun with this. It's borderline like homework, but not really. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely.
So did I.
There's great love here for you. And for now, we are complete. What a good day. So good. This was really, really good. Really, really good. I love you guys. I love you guys.